Welcome to the very first episode of this podcast. If you're here, you probably already know that this is not going to be a space for surface level conversations. As a Scorpio Rising channel, our goal is going to be to look directly at the things that most people prefer to ignore. So, this isn't to shock anyone, but to understand, protect, and heal. This first episode, it's going to be a brief episode just to start our journey. It's not a long clinical lecture. I'm making this today simply to open eyes, start a conversation, and above all, to make sure you feel completely seen in your experience. That is my goal for this first episode. So, for this debut, we are touching on the 12th house and Chiron as well, and specifically Chiron in Gemini, and the heavy reality of child grooming. Because as Scorpio risings, we seem to understand this more so than other people, and the early sexualization so many Scorpio risings face. So, we're going to look into how those experiences shatter our boundaries and trust, and it leads to the classic 12th house pattern of self sabotage. And then there is the struggle to now trust your own self. So, we're just going to bring a supportive angle to this. I'm actually weaving in some insights from Christina, a professional astrologer. She's a parental and relationship astrologer from TikTok. She goes by Relational Astrology, and her handle is relational period astrology. So definitely look for her on TikTok, follow her there. And this is just going to be a short, raw look into a deep wound and a reminder of how we find our way back to our own power. So take a breath, ground yourself, and let's get into it. I have to introduce you. And okay, your name is Christina, and
Yes.
so you have to tell us your big three.
Okay. So my
Okay.
big three is I have a Capricorn sun, a Cancer moon, and a Scorpio rising.
Okay. And now, what is one thing that you absolutely love about your chart? If you want to just describe that.
Um, just in terms of a placement or just
Yeah.
overall?
Um, either whatever, anything that you find very positive, enlightening, you're proud of.
I think that uh, I think that the part of my chart that I've really learned has, if I embrace it, has really allowed for me to feel more comfortable in my skin and just accept myself has actually been my Sagittarius Venus in the
Okay.
second house, and
Yeah.
also my Gemini Mars in the eighth house. And
Okay.
those two I have found I've really connected with in the past few years more so. Um, and especially my Sagittarius Venus. Once I started living my Venus sign, I started really feeling aligned.
Can you give me an example of that? Because those are two polar opposite placements, and that's
Yes.
really hard. So I want to know like how you're doing that. What's an example?
So I will say that my Sagittarius Venus is conjunct my Neptune in Sagittarius. So that can be a little bit
Hmm.
tricky, but meaning that um I am someone who is constantly like wanting change, wanting different interests, switching it up, and traveling. And I think that these were things that I thought were me just not being able to focus. But in all actuality,
Right.
excuse me, in all actuality, it has allowed me to really say, okay, this is what makes me happy. I like to do art. I like to do astrology. I like to travel. And that personified is this is a person who is a little bit all over the place because they're wanting adventure, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be so locked down. And I think my Gemini Mars really helped me with the fact that I am a yapper, and and that's how I do, that's how I motivate, that's how I initiate. That's I was a teacher before. It is all about communication with me, and so that really allowed for me to understand that that's how I argue, That's how I like, I mean, in the bedroom, I like verbal.
Mhm.
So it's in my eighth house.
Mhm.
So for me, I always just thought like, oh, I'm just someone who likes to communicate and talk. And now it's kind of like, this is why. So the why has been helpful.
Yeah, I love that because you've learned to Venus is our self-worth and how we feel loved. So if you lock yourself down, then other people are going to follow how you're treating yourself. So
Yeah.
that's important. And those are like the money houses too. So that's probably, I'm sure that reflects that in a positive way too. I think that's a big thing for Scorpio rising. A lot of that, I know we have to be spiritually aligned with our work.
Hmm.
And for you, it's really important. Your money is very important to you. And you're a Capricorn, so
Yeah. And I'm a Capricorn. So,
and you're a Capricorn. Okay, so I'm looking at you sent over these questions and they're these topics and they're so good. Okay, which one am I going to pick first? Um we'll probably do 2, 3 at the most.
okay.
And okay. Do. There was one on here that I saw must have been at the top. So, the sexualization was its own topic. Let's go there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what's your whole take on that? Like what's one thing that, all pretty much a lot of Scorpio risings are going to agree with and
So I a little bit of what we touched on where you just I felt sexualized at a very young age by men that were older than me, and just it was just an energetic. So I would, maybe be 12 years old and walking around, and men would be kind of leering at me, and I learned to keep my eyes down. I learned to not make eye contact because that was almost an invitation, and I find that that is still something that happens throughout my life where I have to be very protective and insular, because if I open up just even my face and my eyes to the general public, if I'm out at a restaurant or I'm out at Target or whatever, it invites people in that it feels unsafe to me. So, because of this sexualization, and also just being told, you look exotic, you look older than your years, you seem wiser and older, all of these things that are placed upon us that are very confusing. And then it's almost, other people don't understand it because they think we're being paranoid or they think that we are
full of
overreacting.
ourselves too. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've had people who have, you know, I I've had stalkers, I've had people who have, I didn't know, come into my life and leave notes and, try to invade into my personal space, and that's been very scary for me. So it's been a constant theme throughout my life of who do I let in and how do I kind of keep this closed off so people just don't feel like they can access.
Right. Because it could even be just the conversation, or I've had people, they'll inbox me, and first of all, I get offended because they know I'm taken.
Mhm.
So you're assuming that I, would cheat or whatever. So I just do the
Mhm.
ignoring thing. I am in a time in my life where I enjoy it, like enjoy the ignoring.
Yes.
I think it's just because of, um, oh, okay, you're that kind of man. I'm going to enjoy totally ignoring you. I felt like
Probably
that ever since.
empowering.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely obviously relate to that. And what would you say to people who have children who have strong Scorpio or Scorpio rising? Because this is, I don't think you can verbalize this as a child to a parent, and it needs to be protected, and parents need to be aware for, you're going to a relative's house or you're going to
Mhm.
an adult friend's house. The kids are getting together to play, and there's this weird person who's, I remember I had had to babysit a lot growing up. Capricorn moon, I was just everyone's babysitter, and my dad's best friend would pick me up, drive me to the house, and I remember him putting his hand on my thigh
Wow.
and feeling
Mhm.
so uncomfortable and knowing how to, and this, this we could segue into the next part. I think it's like a 12th house type of thing. I knew how to gain my composure and not make him feel weird. Do you know, like just act normal, go with the conversation.
Which is fascinating because that also just, you know, goes into our just experience as women and conditioning and having to learn how to, you know, not rock the boat, but then still protect ourselves as we are trained to do
Right,
until we get older and then we're comfortable just, taking our power.
right. Because if that happened now, I would probably go rogue and punch them, and like, this is already, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
my daughter, who's a Cap Rising and Scorpio stellium and a Leo moon, she is so funny. One of the places I hate the most that give me the heebie-jeebies are gas stations. I have been
Mm.
proposed to by some stranger at a gas station. I don't like gas stations, I never have. I don't know if I have some memory blocked from a long time ago because of gas stations. Um, my daughter is so funny. If a guy hits on them, they start barking, her and her friend, they growl. They
That's
do.
amazing.
It's hilarious, you know? Um, they're just so unfiltered, the next generation. They see it as like not good behavior, and why
I
do
love
we have
that.
to behave? Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
what would you tell parents though that have children that are like Scorpio moon or like a
Mhm.
Venus and Scorpio? Because even when I'm around the opposite sex, and if they have certain placements and I feel something and it's not my fault, right? It's not my fault.
Mhm.
I'm like, they have to have something that is hitting like my Uranus placement in Scorpio, because I've looked at enough charts. Um, and it's not even my fault, but I can feel it. I can feel that they're attracted to me, and then and it's probably not their fault either. And I'm talking about with people that have been very respectful, who've never crossed any line, but you can
But you
feel
can
it.
energetically feel it, right.
Energetically feel it. But so what would you say to parents who have children with these placements and maybe this is the first time they're hearing about this?
So, I think it's a little bit twofold because with being a Scorpio rising to begin with, and then having children or, daughters that I would need to have this conversation with, I find that I'm already overprotective. So they are almost learning from me that distrust of kind of the outside. So that is something that they have watched me do and have kind of noticed and talked about. So then they say things like, "Oh, well, this person's looking creepy. This person was staring at me." So if I had that children with the Scorpio placements, I would think that parents, we need to sit down and just really explain to them, look, we have this energetic magnetic pull. We push people out, we pull people in, depending on whether we're triggering them. And it's something that needs to just be sacred. I think that because you and I didn't have anyone having this conversation with us, we had to figure it out ourselves and we've had to navigate. I've had a lot of Scorpio risings tell me that the eye contact thing, they don't like to make eye contact with people. They
Mhm,
don't like to engage. They don't feel safe in situations that other people do.
mhm,
So I think that, just really having to have difficult conversations that children really, it's not fair to them to even have to be in this situation, but that's where we're at. With
right.
you having a daughter with a Scorpio moon, have you had those conversations?
So I learned about grooming and all of that in my 20s and
Mhm.
realized, okay, like I've been violated. Um, so what I would do with my older daughters, and I'll start with that first. With them, I would do role playing. So I would like put my hand on their thigh. What are you going to say? I really got them to say how they were feeling, and really taught them that none of this, it like I want them to use their throat, which is which is the opposite of Scorpio,
Mm.
Taurus versus Scorpio. Now, with my Aries child, we haven't had like a very specific conversation, but we have a lot of, I'm always coaching her on just speaking, and I don't label her as bossy. Um, I encourage it, and she's very, very blunt. And because I do see the bigger picture pretty quickly with children, she will, of course, she has to learn to be a little bit more diplomatic. Her North Node is in her seventh house in Libra. So,
Oh, in Libra. Okay.
yeah, so she's a Aries rising, Aries sun, Scorpio moon. So she's gonna be forced to be a little bit more diplomatic. Um,
Mhm.
I asked her, "Why don't you want to hang out with that friend?" "Oh, because she's always telling me what we should do." I was like,
Yes.
"That sounds like you, but okay."
Mhm.
Um, so I haven't really had the a conversation that I can think of recently about, hey, this is where we don't touch, because I do that naturally. Like I don't let even a stranger touch them. If I see a weird face come up on my children, and this actually happened, I use my throat, and I actually look at my child and I say, "Did you not want them to touch you?" And they're like, they'll nod, shake their head yes, nod their head yes, and I will use my strength as a model for my kid, because I know it's going to be seared in their memory, and I say, "She didn't like that. Don't do that." Because that's how grooming actually starts. It's like touching the child's shoulder in front of the parent. And this is how I think this is very easy for a Scorpio rising to understand, because I've explained this to other adults and they're just dumbfounded.
Yes.
And
Yes, that's so interesting. Oh, I when we have people come strangers come to the house, like whether it doesn't even matter. A stranger's coming to the house to fix something, to buy something, whatever. I from the very beginning, I would tell my kids, "Go up to your room." I didn't
mhm,
want people to even
mhm,
see them, and I
mhm,
think it's because of this trauma of
mhm,
feeling like so violated and exposed
mhm,
from having people get pulled in even at a young age, and like you said, the grooming. So I was overprotective where I don't know if I've made them paranoid, but I've been overprotective where I'm like, I don't even want people seeing my children, seeing my daughters. I don't want them to. And so now my daughters have kind of through that said, "Oh, someone's coming over. I'll be up in my room." And I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but
mhm.
instinctually, I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to make sure that what has happened to me isn't going to happen to them?
Right. I get it. The
And
other
the grooming
day,
is a big thing. That I mean, I
yes,
think most Scorpio rising women have definitely had run-ins or pretty intense experiences with grooming for sure.
100%. So it's not for me, it's not just like to answer the question even more. It's not, hey, this is the no touch zone. How about you don't even touch my hair if I don't
Yes.
allow it? So I just naturally started that. For example, my youngest and my son, my kids are coming today, so I'm so excited to see them. He he's a Cancer sun, Scorpio moon, and a Libra rising. He was the sweetest baby ever. And he was so like, he would kiss me on the lips, and I just loved it. And then he went through a 2-year phase when I don't think it started when he was around 6 or 5-ish. He would not let me kiss him. And
Mhm.
so I honored that. And I think
Mhm.
this is really foreign to a lot of adults. This is the best way you can help prevent, you know, it's not the abuse, it's the not being able to speak about the abuse, because if you think that it wasn't bad because you are the bad one, kids don't want to tell on themselves. So
Right.
if anyone knows the pain of suffering for Scorpio rising, it's also like the shame. And then the shame is in your sexual organs, and now you can't even enjoy that. It's a whole Pandora's box.
It
And
really is a Pandora's box
yeah,
because with this like so I ended up having endometriosis
yes,
and pelvic pain, chronic pelvic
yes.
pain, and it really got stored in in that area, which we know is Scorpio rules.
Yeah.
So I think that that happens often.
Yes.
And I know with my daughters, it's from the very beginning, it was you don't have to hug anyone, you don't have to shake their hand. If someone reaches out, you do not have to do that. And I got to the point where I'm like, we don't do hugs. We don't do that.
Mhm.
You just don't, you're not granted access to my child's physical being
Or
unless
their
they
or their
approach you.
attention, their
Yeah.
attention, because, my youngest daughter, like I said, she's Aries sun, Aries rising, and her Mars is in Libra, but it's in the 6th house, and she has this energy where adults want her to like them. And it's
Mm.
interesting. So say for example, we go somewhere and I'm introducing her to anyone. If she gets shy or she doesn't want to do the whole like charade, I'm so there's a huge boundary between me and another person and me and my child that I'm not going to subconsciously take on the guilt of them looking rude. Shake his hand, give him a high five.
Yeah.
I have watched adults feel, disappointed, and so I let my children be present in other people's feelings also. It's the disappointment, and that's a big thing going back to the sexual abuse. Um we've really been conditioned, and it takes a long time to undo the patterns for sure because it's allowed and nobody knows how to deal with it. But I've worked with a lot of Scorpio risings who have, I don't know if we talked about this, but Chiron in Gemini, and I even worked with an
Mm.
actual therapist. They have I've never done a reading with a Scorpio rising who hasn't been sexually abused with Chiron in Gemini. And very
It-
overt abuse, not
wow.
covert, yeah, and,
Yeah.
it's interesting because they're a little detached from it, like, "Oh, yeah, I've dealt with it," and then we're just on to the next topic, so I've learned to tread very carefully with that placement, like, if it's not something that they want to deal with, that I'm not a therapist anyways, it's not my job, and I think that's very interesting. It's the vocalization of the betrayal with Chiron in the 8th, and it's a Scorpio. That would be like,
Fascinating.
yeah, Chiron and Scorpio would be, similar. So I don't remember the last time Chiron was in Scorpio. I'd have to look up the decade for that, but I wonder what kind of unspoken abuse wasn't, s- you know, or it was just hidden. It could have been a generation of all kinds of weird stuff. I'll have to look that up. I have no idea, but um, so what do you think about I think the 12th house for Scorpio risings is so important because we we're prone to like get caught up in these relationships where we become the martyr, and Venus rules our 7th house of relationships and then our 12th house. So I'm always preaching that we we can't really blame our partners, but we'll sabotage because of like through the relationship. We'll take ownership of their instability and do whatever we can to keep the harmony. And I think a lot of Scorpio risings, their lessons are through relationships. And it doesn't mean it has to be romantic or you have to have the same partner for the rest of your life, because I never thought I would divorce my second husband. My first one, it was like I was so young. It was like a little thing, a little blip. But that my second one that I married in my mid 20s, that I was with him a total of 18 years. I never thought I never thought that would happen. But then there came a point I can't this instability, I don't know if it's going to stop. My need for stability wasn't respected.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what's your views on like the 12th house and relationships and Scorpio rising and self-sabotage? Ad-
Um, I would say the 12th house, when you asked me what my favorite placement is, I would say my least favorite placement is my 12th house Pluto and Libra. Um,
we both have that.
yes, and it has been um relationships have turned over. I find that people who I think are my friends are actually not. They're actually people who become envious or triggered by me because, and especially with um Uranus in the first house, just us existing is going to trigger people, as well as being a Scorpio rising. Um, but I have found that it's been a very painful thing. I've understood it now more with astrology, that this is what the pattern is and this is what's going to happen. I do feel that there is some self-sabotaging because for a long time, I was abandoning myself a little bit to try to fit into group situations, and then realizing that I have to be so selective. And even then, um, it's not surprising if someone ends up being someone who is actually not someone who is going to do right by me.
Right.
And it's this constant rebirth of relationships, and then you start sabotaging because you're not able to trust, because you have seen the people that are supposed to care about you, then do it turns out they do not.
Right. Yeah. I think part of it too with that, the 7th and the 12th house, because they quincux too.
Mhm.
So when you get your 7th house right, then your 12th house becomes, you can see it better, and vice versa. When you really prioritize your spirituality and allow the real truth, because you might not want to be in a relationship, but you're there for the wrong reasons, but also it's, to survive, or you have a family, and it's very difficult. um and I also think, because Scorpio rising, they're the alchemist, and
Mhm.
we magnetize people or repel. So we get a lot of people who have addictions, the 12th house, and then I don't know if people use this term anymore, but like well, then we become the co-addict and managing
Mhm.
their addiction. So we're managing their addiction, which is our self-sabotaging the 12th house through Libra expression, the relationship, trying to bring harmony to our subconscious so we can live with ourselves. Is the
Right.
irony. Yeah. And then it's it's just a whole, and I think that I don't know. I think Scorpio risings are pretty good at getting to the truth eventually, because you can
Yes.
only push them so far, and they can't. And then of course it depends on the transits and all that. Um I want to ask you one more question. Um oh, because you said something. So trust issues and how Scorpio risings decide who gets access to them. Because everything we were just talking about with the 12th, I do believe that we're meant to learn. We're supposed to embrace our full capacity to love, and it goes with loyalty and depth. And can we trust? It's not just trusting our partners. Can we trust ourselves to walk away when we've been had the violation to our soul? And I think that's the fine line. Like that's kind of what I'm seeing at this point in my life. Of course, I'm gonna integrate my own story and everything, but do I? Because am I really safe in this relationship? Because we'll have Gemini in the eighth house, and we will look at everything, because I know what it feels like to be on the other end, and that's why I I intentionally surround myself with certain energy, and a lot of that is Scorpio, because I can say very freely, like, hey, that kind of made me feel a certain way, and they get it. Um,
Yes.
especially when you've been burnt so many times.
Yes, and it's hard to be surrounded by everyone else who does not have that experience. And so it's almost like a it almost feels like a gaslighting of just society as a whole, when they don't understand what it is that we have dealt with, and then they're looking at us like we're crazy for being so protective or not trusting. And I think that with that 12th house, I think it's hard because I know our journey is to learn to trust and trust ourselves, but the journey itself just keeps teaching us not to trust. So I do find myself constantly in this kind of a teeter totter of, okay, well, I can trust myself. I know I know I can do that now, but am I ever really going to trust anyone else? I think as much work as I've done, I can't really fully trust anyone. Nothing
Yeah.
surprises me at this point, you know?
I know, it's incredible. My therapist, who I haven't talked to in a few months because I just needed a break, she and I've been with her since 2021. She has said, "I know you don't trust me." Like
Yeah.
she wants to see that part of me and acknowledge it. So, I want to let's take a break because I want to do more and we'll catch it on the next episode if that sounds good to you.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Okay, so I kept this first episode short because I just don't think these are topics that we can just rush through, or nor do I want to overanalyze in one sitting. But just talking about the 12th house and Chiron, specifically Gemini or 8th house for Scorpio risings, this can make us feel like we have to hide or blame ourselves. But the real power of Scorpio energy is in the ability to transform that pain into a fierce, unwavering trust in our own intuition. I think we're so aware of that, constantly trying to make sense of things, right? And always coming back to the same question: can I trust myself? If this all resonated with you or made you feel a little more seen today, please consider subscribing. Also, leave a comment below. Let me know what other hidden topics, placements, or shadows you want me to unpack with other guests on this channel. I really want to build a space where we can talk about these things openly. And a huge thank you to Christina from Relational Astrology. Remember, you can find her on TikTok, and that's at relational dot or period astrology. And thank you so much, Christina, for joining me and being so willing to sit in this heavy space today. Her links are all down below in the description box below. Also, Christina and I actually recorded a very long episode together where we dive into Pluto in each house. So I will be launching those maybe in 3 parts because it is long. So make sure you are subscribed. I don't want you to miss those dropping. And while we're on that topic, please put down in the comments. Let us know, where is your Pluto? What house is it in? Is it conjunct something? Is it squaring something? What zodiac is it in? And thank you just for being here on my first episode. And take care of yourself, trust your gut, and I will see you in the next one.